Hi guys, welcome back to the Player YouTube channel, and you join me today with the Volkswagen ID3, and it gets its name number 3 because it is the third generation of iconic cars that Volkswagen have produced. The first being the Beetle back in 1938, the second being the Golf in 1974, and now in 2020 the ID3, and I think the ID stands for something along the lines of innovative design or something like that. Anyway, this car is an all-electric car. It's an all-electric family hatchback, no less. But is it the future? Let's find out. With the ID3, you get a choice of 4 different rim styles. The entry-level ones are called the Aero, and they're 18-inch. They come as standard. However, you can go up to 19-inch or even 20-inch, and you can pay as much as £1,860 for those. Right, let's check out under the bonnet, and the bonnet release catch is down here in the driver's footwell. Just give it a single pull. Don't forget, if you're driving a left-hand drive car, it's going to be in the same position it'd be in the passenger footwell, because it's not going to be swapping it around. Bonnet release catch right in the centre there, very easy to locate, and the actual bonnet itself is very light because it's very short. So you can pop it up, there's no gas strut. You've got a little strut here, pops in there, there's a little arrow, tells you where to put it as well, makes it all nice and safe, it's not going to move. First thing you're going to notice, there's no grille at the front here because it doesn't need to cool an engine. But what you do have, there is a grille down the bottom here, and that allows air to go underneath the car, which cools the battery. So if you're using the battery stuck in traffic, or you're around town, or it's a hot day or something like that, it does need a bit of cooling, and that's where it gets it from. Let's talk a little bit about what's under the bonnet here. So these are your fluid areas, so to speak. So you've got your brake fluids, you've got your washer wipe fluid, and in the centre section here you've got your air conditioning unit itself. Now this uses a heat pump system. I'm not going to go all into that today because it's not necessary. When you get down to your VW showroom, ask them about the heat pump option. It's a great option to have. It means you don't use up your battery when you're using your aircon unit, and you get almost instantaneous heat during the winter and instantaneous cooling during the summer. Speak to the VW salesperson about that. Got a little fuse box over here, and believe it or not, a little 12-volt battery as well. Quite interesting. The car itself comes with a choice of 2 different electric motors, which are both positioned over the rear axle. This is a rear-wheel drive car. You can't actually get it in a 4-wheel drive, but there again, is it really necessary? No, I don't think so, because it would increase the cost. You'd need 2 motors, much bigger batteries and things like that. The 2 motors that you can get is there's a 143 horsepower version, and there is also a 200 horsepower version, which will give you a 0 to 60 time of around about 7 seconds and a top speed of 99 miles an hour. Again, for a little family hatch, it's not bad. There are 3 battery choices on this car. You have a 45 kilowatt, a 58 kilowatt, and a 77 kilowatt. Now, each of those batteries will give you a different range. So the range starts at around 216 miles for the lowest one, and then the highest kilowatt battery, that's the 77 kilowatt, VW say will give you 340 miles of range. Remains to be seen. This particular car is the 58 kilowatt, and we have been getting exactly what it says on the tin. All in all though, charging this car, if you're on one of those 100 kilowatt chargers, or if you can find a 150 kilowatt charger, be great, but primarily the 100 kilowatt charger will charge one of these in around 35 to 40 minutes. If you're on a home charger, that's the 7 kilowatt charger, it takes around about 9 hours. So you can plug it in overnight, come out the following morning, you get 80% of charge. 80% is your optimal charging level on these cars. There are 7 different colour choices. Your entry-level colour, which is non-metallic, is called Moonstone Grey. If you want any of these sort of fancy colours like this, which are all metallics, you will be paying an extra £665. Round at the back, there's an awful lot of aerodynamics going on. And the reason is, being an electric car, this car needs to be as aerodynamic as possible to give you the maximum range on your battery. Looking around it though, this is a rather large spoiler on the top here with a built-in brake light. You're hardly ever going to get this dirty under here. And even so, it's such a tiny screen. I'm sure you're going to desperately need a camera with this or some rear beepers when you're parking, because You can hardly see anything out the back there. You do get a wash and wipe, which is quite nice. And again, the lovely little picked out white VW badge in the middle with your ID3 badge showing everybody you are being as eco-friendly as possible. Obviously, there are no exhaust ports on this car, but I do like the chunky state of it around the bottom here, and I do love the fact that you get a floaty windscreen, so you don't get any of that water being caught in those rubbers, and it gives it a much sharper look and a sharper line. You get LEDs as standard at the back, and all in all, I think it's a really good looking car from behind. There are 5 different trim levels available: Life, Style, Family, Max and Tour. Tour is the longest distance that you will get out of a battery, but we'll talk all about that when we get this out on the road. You also get a couple of different interior designs to choose from as well, and best of all, the world's slowest foldy innie mirrors. Wait for it. Let's check it out in the back for the passengers. Before I do that, I just want you to notice how good the door is here, how far back it goes. So you can easily get a baby seat in and out of here. You can also help, you know, elderly or aged people in and out as well. And just generally getting in and out is very, very easy. The window comes all the way down to about maybe an inch, you know, a couple of centimetres just above. So it's not too bad. Doesn't go all the way down though. That is always a bit of a problem these days. You get a decent bin in here to put water and bottles of whatever you want in there. Don't put water in there, put it in a bottle first. Does help, and it won't make as much mess. I'm going to jump in. Seat is in its usual driving position here. It's very basic in the back here, but I love basic. I think basic is good these days because this is really just a nice little added extra to be able to give passengers a ride, because a lot of electric cars nowadays just don't have much space. You'll also notice in the centre here there is no transmission tunnel whatsoever. That's because it's a battery car, so it doesn't need a, you know, a differential and all those other bits that go through exhaust pipes and all things like that, which is great, which also means sliding across here is very easy. So when you jump in the middle seat, which it's very tight, but it's definitely a middle seat. There's plenty of headroom as well. I did notice that. It's got a lot of room. It feels very spacious in here. You get LED courtesy lights, which I really like. You can push them like that, and they go on and off. I like that as well. I think that's really cool. You've got a couple of USB-Cs down here, so you're going to need an adapter if you're using your basic USBs at the moment, but eventually we'll all have USB-Cs. Also, with the ISOFIX points, we've got to talk about the ISOFIX points, yes. These are the pulley-downy ones, so they pop down like that, and then you've got access to it. I quite like them, but they're going to get broken, so you're going to end up having to spend more money on those when you come to hand the car back, because they'll go, I'm terribly sorry, but your ISOFIX covers are broken, or what, or they've been lost or something. Recessed seat belts here, very sort of standard cloth interior. I'm hoping that this has got like a Scotch guard in it, so if you've got a couple of little brats in the back here and they're making mess with ice cream and lollipops and things like that, you're going to be able to just wipe this off. I'm pretty sure that's what it's been designed for. I'm not going to test it because it's not my car. We don't have any of those rear pockets at the back here. Yay! No need to waste a load of money having those old granny stocking things that are stuck on the back here. So that's quite nice. And just generally sitting here, it's a very, very comfortable car. All trim levels, including your entry level, get LED running lights at the top there, as well as headlights that are matrix LEDs. Let's check it out in the boot. In order to get into the boot, you just push the badge forward like that and then lift with your fingers like that. It's not electronically assisted because that would be using up even more battery, but it does have a couple of decent gas struts. First up, I'm going to say, you know, we've got the inevitable parcel shelf. So in order to get it out, you have to unhook it like that. Now, this is the best bit. You can't pull it out or lift it. You literally have to go like that. And I'm sure when you go down to the showroom, they will teach you how to do that, because one little like that just pops it out. There is nowhere to put this. So once you've got it out, say you've got to load in a pushchair or a pram or even a bicycle or something like that, you're going to end up having this stuck on your passengers' you know, laps, or because laying it in there, it's going to get damaged. And even laying it in there, it really is difficult. It doesn't go flat. So I would say, basically, when you buy one of these cars, throw this away, because it's always going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, so to speak. I'm going to put it out the way now. I normally throw them away, but I just quite like this car and I don't want to throw it away. I just don't fancy it. You get your charging cable. This is your big pin one that you can use when you're out on the road. or whenever you need to plug in and charge up. However, if you want a home charging cable, one of those that plugs into the wall, then you are going to have to spend an extra £209 for that, because they don't come as part of the price. Just thought I'd mention that. Again, there's not really any place to put these. There is a little place here, but it's sort of full up with the puncture repair kit. That is also completely useless, and you can't quite get that in as well. So again, I'm going to have to put that out of the way in order to show you what's inside here. A good thing, 385 litres of boot space. Now that does impress me. For a small family hatchback like this, that's a decent sized boot. So I'm impressed with that. And it's very easy to put the seats down. You've got a 60-40 split. We'll pop them down like that. This one pops again over like that. Very simple. But again, it's so disappointing. All these lovely bits and pieces that Volkswagen come up with, and yet you end up with this great big lip here. So if you're trying to slide stuff through, trying to put a pram in there or a pushchair or a bike, it's going to get caught on there every single time. And obviously it's going to damage the bottom of the seat. And another thing here, you've got a lip down here, pulling cases in and out or bits and pieces, shopping or whatever. It's going to end up scratching here, possibly even scratching the rear bumper as well. Couple of good bits and pieces. Well, you do get a 12-volt adapter over there. You've got some shopping bag holders, and you get a nice, decent little LED courtesy light. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, you do have the inevitable puncture repair kit with the, oh God, the latex. Yes, look, pump that all over, ruin your tyre, goes all over the floor. It stinks as well. Throw this away. Don't even bother. You can't get a space saver in here or a spare wheel, so you're going to end up with going down the route of run flats, and that's what I would personally recommend. Throw those stupid things away, not worth it. So a few little bits and pieces, not over happy about, but at the same time, a decent size interior boot there. Let's check it out up front for the driver. First thing you notice, it's keyless entry and keyless ignition, although it doesn't have an ignition. Well, anyway, there you go. So, jump in, everything comes to life because it's recognised I've got the key. That's the main thing. Just going to pop that down there. You don't get electronic seats in this particular trim level, but you can get electronic seats on the top levels. This one's quite easy though. It's very nice and simple. Mechanical side bits here, and then the usual bit under there to move it backwards and forwards. One thing I do like about this car is the actual movement and the amount of, look at that, there's tons. And you will notice my little 5-inch instrument cluster there actually moves with the wheel itself. So it's always in view, no matter how high or how low or where you want it. That's brilliant, utterly brilliant. I'll set it back where it was there. It's really nice. Steering wheel. This is a 3-phase, yes, a 3-phase heated steering wheel. Like you really want to use more battery power. But I must admit, during the winter, especially today, it's nice to have 3 different levels of heat in your steering wheel. On the right-hand side here is your media control. Very simple to use. Left and right is your sound and your volume there. Up and down is your channel changer, or if you're using your phone, playing your tunes, you can flip up and down using your Android mirroring or your wireless Apple Play as well. You've got an Ask VW button on here. I'm not even going to go there. If you've watched any reviews on this, that is completely useless. No matter what you say to it, it doesn't know where you want to go. It doesn't understand anything you're saying. It keeps asking you and querying you, and eventually you get so annoyed with it, you just turn it off because it is useless. So we'll just leave it at that. VW, look into that because it is a bit of a bind with this car. It could be quite handy if you did have it. On the right hand side here, you've got your windscreen wiper still. You can set that to auto, and the left hand side is your traditional indicators and full beam, etc., those bits and pieces. You've got your little 5-inch cluster here, which I really, really like. I think it's superbly set up. Very minimal, tells you your range, tells you your speed, your current speed. So I'll explain quickly about the gears. Very similar to the BMW system up here. It's just a turn, so you have to put your foot on the brake, and then everything changes here as well. And then you turn it forward like that once will put you into drive mode. And if you flick it again, it puts you into B mode. Now B mode is the maximum brake regeneration you can get. So the car almost slows itself down without you even having to touch the brakes. When you go back into the B mode, I've gone into reverse mode there. If you go back into the D mode, you don't get that regen. There's a little bit, but not as much. Unfortunately, the car will never be in a position to actually self-charge the battery. That would be brilliant, because then we would probably never have to go out and charge the car or plug it in. So it would just do it itself. Maybe one day, in about 20, 30 years, that might happen. Reverse, as you probably saw there, just flick backwards, comes up on the screen there. This particular trim level, we get the rear parking beepers, but we don't get a camera. On the upper levels, you do get the camera as well. So I'll put that back into the Drive B mode, which is what I've been using most of the time. Left-hand side of the car are your left-hand side of the steering wheel are your driving modes. Now, when I mean driving modes, first of all, you've got a mode button here. I'm going to clear that screen. We'll talk about the screen in a second. In your mode here, you've got Eco, Comfort and Individual. 3 modes, so you can set it up in your own individual, how you like the car set up, or like I've done, I've left it in Eco mode and then normal mode or Comfort mode. All in all, this car's very comfortable. You can't really notice that much of a difference between those 3 modes. You've got your distance control, you've got your cruise control, and you've got your speed limiter on there as well. Nice and simple, very easy to use. One thing I'm going to say about all these buttons on here, they're very touch sensitive. And I have, on a number of occasions where I've gone round the corner, been listening away to a nice tune, and suddenly it's gone bosh and changed the channel, which was really annoying because they're so sensitive, you have to be careful. Another thing I don't like about this, VW have put the lighting panel right in the middle there, right between the 2 screens. It's difficult to access, and at the same time, it's right in your face. I'd rather it was down here out of the way. There's also your rear screen demister, and your fog lights are on there as well. You can set it, there's a mode button in the middle, just set the mode and it'll put you into the auto. Okay, so a little 5-inch screen there, 10-inch TFT touchscreen in the middle here. In order to get to the menu, look for the little square. Now, the little square, as you push it, you can swap. You can either swipe, but it will always take you back to the menu. So if you're in your aircon mode, for example, you want to go back to the menu, click out of that, push the square, and we come back into our normal menu mode. You get sat-nav with this car. As I mentioned earlier, you get Android mirroring, you get Apple Wireless Play on this as well. There's a lot of driver assist, there's Connect apps on here. You can set all your sound up, you've got your vehicle statistics on here. It's just loading up now. The only thing I don't like it, and now if you're part of my knob gang, you know what I mean by the knob gang. In other words, us who love the knobs on cars, like volume knob, heating knobs, forget it, this car is not for you, because there aren't any knobs on here at all. And also another thing I noticed, getting in and out of the car with wet hands or gloves on, none of the slidey touchy buttons, i.e. for your heating or for the volume on the car, you can't use them, they just don't work. So you've got to dry your hands or take your gloves off in order to get your heating all working or change your tunes or whatever. So, you know, yeah, I prefer the knobs. So if you're a knob gang, give me a comment down below and say, yes, AJ, we love the knobs. In the centre section here, no transmission in this car, obviously. So you've got all this room. One thing you do get, which I've only noticed on more expensive cars, are these nice, you can change the level on your little armrest like that. So if you want to drive along like that, it's really nice. And if you want to lower it down and drive a little bit more cool like that, you can. And they both pop up out the way. In the centre section here, I've got a huge cubby with 2 USB-Cs, and you've got an adapter there as well, which it comes with. And you can change, there's a little thing in here, you can move it up and down. So if you've got more bits at the back, more bits at the front, change it whichever way you want. Slide that back there. Double phone thing here. It's not a proper way of describing it, was it? A double phone holder, there you go. The one at the back is actually a charger. So when you pop it in like that, it makes it sound, starts charging. And then you can have it's more like a his and hers, to be honest with you. You put the next one in front of it like that, but the front one doesn't charge, only the one at the back. Double cup holder at the front here, decent sized glove box. I wouldn't say it's the biggest in the world, but it's decent size. And most of all, look, a tiny, tiny little owner's manual. That's more like it. To be honest, was it worth it, VW? It's only taken up room in the glove box. Mind you, I don't think you'd even get a box of tissues in there. Push that back up there. One thing I love about this car is the actual layout. It's so nicely put together. One thing I don't like about this car, it's so annoying, and talk about penny pinching. The actual windows here, there are only 2 buttons, but you'll notice there's 4 windows. So in order to put the windows down at the back, VW have put a button in the middle which you push. That then allows you to open and close the rear windows, like so. But then to open and close the front ones, you've got to wait for that one to finish, then push that again, and then you can use the same button to lift that window. A little bit penny pinching, maybe over recent events that's what's happening. Piano black everywhere, that will get a little bit scratched up over the years, but all in all, what a nice little car to drive about in. When you get the ID3 out on the road, the first thing you're going to notice is how quiet it is. Obviously, there's no exhaust notes, there's no engine noises, there's no gears noises, nothing's, it's totally silent. Apart from, and I will stress this, the 19-inch rims on this particular car are particularly noisy. And you can tell all the different road surfaces. Now, I'm not sure whether that's because I'm not hearing the engine, so I'm naturally thinking and listening for other things. So maybe that is a byproduct of not having an engine, as the human being starts to listen for other things that are going on around, like the wind noise or the road noise or the tyre noise, things like that. One thing I will give this car is it's an amazing field of vision up the front here, because you've got such a large windscreen and you've got these extra little triangular pieces of glass in front of the mirrors. The mirrors are positioned perfectly, but it's just really nice. Gives you a sort of whole new sort of frontage to the car, whereas you're not directly staring over the bonnet, you're actually looking, you've almost got peripheral vision across here. It's really nice indeed. Gives it a very airy feel within the car. So getting back to combustion engine versus electric car, let's have a little talk about that, because there's a number of pros and cons towards both of these. First of all, let's talk about the basic cons about owning an electric car. Okay, we've all got the range anxiety. Anyone, even if you've never owned an electric car, the first thing you talk about when someone says about, oh, I'm thinking of buying an electric car, yeah, but it won't get you to Cornwall on one charge. No, it won't. And it's probably going to take you at least 3 or 4 times as long to get to a distance destination than it is in a combustion engine car. And the reason for that is, as we all know, you pull up at the fuel station, you run a little bit low on electric, you pull up and you've got to stand there for 35, 40 minutes, or wait there, go and have a coffee, and it will recharge your battery. And that's fine if when you pull up there are enough spaces free that are actually working. And what I mean by that is the amount of times I've gone in to top up my battery, and first of all, there's only, say, 4 out of 10 superchargers are actually working. Secondly, there's a queue for those 4, because it isn't just, oh, I'll pick one of those 4. There's another 20 people waiting to use those 4 that are only available. And it's really annoying. Even when you buy, or you get those special apps on your phone, and it says, oh yes, when you get to the services at Toddington or wherever you're driving, there are 6 free. By the time you get there, it's too slow in updating. So when you get there, there aren't 6 free. There's none free, and now there's a queue of free cars waiting. So if you've got to do that 4 times, imagine that, 4 times to get to your destination. That's really good. Well, it could take you 2 days to cover a distance that normally would take 6 or 7 hours. So my point is, rather than lagging this one out, the infrastructure at the moment for long distance travel in battery cars does not exist. I don't think it exists in any country as yet. So I think, and the other problem is, we are selling more and more electric cars. So there's more going on the road, and more people want to go longer distances in their electric cars. And consequently, the infrastructure can't keep up with the demand. Until that happens, which I hope is very soon, I can't see it myself, but until that happens, I think these cars will remain as secondary cars that you're going to use on a day-to-day basis for running the kids to the school, going to the shops, popping out with the dogs, going to see a few friends somewhere, maybe, just short distances where you feel comfortable, you've got no range anxiety, and every night you can come back, you can pop it back on charge, so you don't need to keep going into, petrol stations to top it up, and it all works really nicely. But at the moment, second car, and this could be the ideal second car because it is very well equipped. It comes in at a very decent price as well, which makes a huge difference when you're buying these electric cars. Seems to me that they've preloaded them because it's almost like a luxury item at the moment, so you end up paying a lot more than you would for a combustion engine car. I don't get that when the whole world is trying to go eco-friendly. Let me give you an example for the pluses of owning an electric car, even if it is over short distances, because there is some major pluses. Obviously, the obvious ones, that is, you are not polluting our atmosphere, and you know, it's quite nice and quiet, so it's good on the ears and things like that. But the major bonus is, I'm going to give you a typical scenario here. 12,000 miles a year is about average for a car to drive. That includes going to work, shopping, things like that. This is your main car. And if you're in a combustion engine car, be it diesel or petrol, I've worked out at 40 miles per gallon, I think you agree with me, that's about an average miles per gallon, fair to say, would cost around 1,750 UK pounds a year to run that car. That's not with tax and insurance and any other charges, that's just purely the fuel. Now, let's equate that over into the electric car. So this car is currently doing just over 3 miles per kilowatt. Now, when you equate that into the petrol, each mile per kilowatt is around about 33 miles per gallon. So if this is currently doing 3.2, it's just over 100 miles to the gallon, okay? Now, working out that if you were charging at home at a cost of around about, thereabouts, 4.4 pence, or pennies, wherever you are in the world, 4.4 UK pence per unit, you would be spending around £338 per year, just using your home charger and, you know, using it, as I said, based on those statistics. That is a huge saving. And don't forget, combustion engines need servicing. Okay, these cars need servicing, but nowhere near as much. They haven't got as many moving parts. So you're going to save on services. You know, things like congestion charges, where you go into a town and they're going to charge you for driving your combustion engine car. You won't get charged for this car. So there's a lot of benefits when it comes to things like that as well. Just to let you know, if you're out and about and you're charging, if you're on a 100 kilowatt charger, depending on who is providing that energy, you're going to be looking to pay between 6.8 and 7 pennies or pence per unit, just to give you an idea. So filling up a tank depends on, you know, say filling up a tank, filling it up to about 80% is going to also cost a lot less than it does to put in your combustion engine vehicle. There you go. Here in the UK, you can buy an ID3 for just a little less than 30,000 UK pounds, which I think is great value for money. Personally, I would be happy with the entry-level paint, that's the Moonstone Grey, and I'd be happy with the entry-level 18-inch alloys that this car comes with, and that will keep your cost down. Additionally, I think I would purchase the plug-in extender adapter that you can buy, which is £209. We mentioned that earlier. And I would definitely go for the heat pump option when it comes to your air conditioning. Have a chat with your Volkswagen salesperson and they will explain all about that and the cost implications to you. One thing I do know, here in the UK, the government currently offers a £2,500 grant if you buy a new car. Now, you won't get a cheque back or, you know, some guy turn up with a briefcase with a load of money in it when you've bought one of these. It will be deducted at source. Volkswagen will take care of that for you. So you will literally drive out £2,500 discounted car when you go and pick it up, which is great. It's all done for you. In addition to that, if you want to get a home charger, you can apply for another grant there as well. You can get up to £350 towards your home charger. Now, do bear in mind, home chargers, especially the 7 kilowatt ones, cost between about £700–800 to up to £1,200 UK pounds, depending on which one you go for. However, I heard a bit of news the other day. I don't know whether it's true, and you can, if you would kindly comment down below and let me know if it is true, because it would be handy to know. Apparently, every new house in the UK built in 2022, it will become law to have a home charging unit for your electric vehicle. There you go. Now, I only heard that the other day. It would be handy if someone who is in any authority can let me know if that's actually true. Just talking about warranties and things like that, which I think is very important if you're buying an electric car. First of all, you get Volkswagen's 3-year or 60,000 warranty, which is pretty standard across the range. One thing you do get extra with this is obviously the battery warranty. Now, the battery warranty is 8 years or 100,000 miles. Now, one thing Volkswagen do, which I think is really good, they've mentioned to me about depletion. Now, if you know what depletion is, let's give you a quick scenario. You buy a mobile phone. When you've had it the first 6 months, you're hardly charging it. It's fantastic. You put a charge in maybe once a day and it lasts 24 hours. After about 6 months, maybe 8, maybe even 10 months, you start to realise you're charging it that little bit more. That's depletion. Basically, the battery cells are starting to die. Now, that happens in an electric car, exactly the same as a mobile phone. So you're basically riding along on a giant mobile phone battery. and it will start to deplete the more times you charge it, you know, dependent. You know, after sort of 2-3 years, you're going to be quite a way down the line where you might actually need to start changing the battery. Now, Volkswagen have covered this by saying within that warranty, that 8 years or 100,000 miles, if your battery drops below 70% of its original health, that's what they call it, they will replace it completely free of charge. Now, I haven't heard of that with any of the other manufacturers. Again, if you want to comment on that and leave that in the box for me down below, if you are you know, somebody, a professional who can let me know if that is the case, then fantastic. Love your comments. I'm sure everybody else watching this would like them as well. So there you have it. Basically, it's you know, it's pretty much covered on the price. You're down to, after your government grant, you could be here in the UK paying around 27,000 UK pounds for one of these cars. And I think that is exceptionally good for what it is. So there you have it, guys. That was and is the Volkswagen ID3, and I think it's a cracking little car. Definitely worth a trip down to your VW sales room to have a good chat with one of those salespeople down there. Also, in answer to my question at the beginning, is it the future? I'll leave that one up to you to decide, because at the end of the day, it's your choice. You've been watching me, AJ, on the Player YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review of this car. If you did, then we could do with a little thumbs up, because we don't get paid any extra, don't get any bonuses, but what we do get is a pat on the back from the bosses and the sponsors to say, job well done. Because if you thumbs up, that means you liked what we did, and the bosses and the sponsors recognise that and go, we're doing a good job. So I'd appreciate that if you could. Don't forget, any comments, leave them in the comment box down below. If you've got any questions about the car you want answered, we'll get back to you as soon as humanly possible. Also, if you want to subscribe, remember, keep the little bell sign unchecked, because we put up many videos, not just, you know, cars. We do boats, we do motorcycles, interviews, all sorts of stuff, because we are part of the Player, and the Player is a much bigger organisation. We have a 228-page bookazine for men. Yes, just solely for men, men's lifestyle. Anyway, that's the best way of describing it. You can have a copy of that completely free of charge. Not the physical copy, but you can have the online version completely free. And all you've got to do is go to www.theplayer.co.uk. It's coming up here now. There you go. It's in there. I'm going to leave it up for a few seconds. You can memorise that. Head over there. Look at the top. You'll see register or subscribe. It's something like that. Click on that. It's a simple email and a name. That is it. There's no data capture, and then that is all yours, either to view online, or you can download it and view at your leisure. And it's completely free of charge. And there's so much in there. There's motorbikes, there's golf, there's interviews, there's wine, there's cars, there's, you just keep going, jet skis, you know, it just keeps going and going and going. So if you want a piece of that, get over there. You've got it for free. It's on me because you watch me on the Player YouTube channel. I'll catch you next week with something different.